Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ms. Musarrat Aimani. I am a teacher to a student at Rehan School, Lahore campus. Today we talk about the art of effective listening, how to really hear others with Maya. Listening is one of the most important communication skills, yet many people listen only to reply rather than to understand. Effective listening helps build trust, strengthen relationships, reduce misunderstandings, and create meaningful connections. By giving others our full attention, we show respect and empathy, making conversation more productive and enjoyable. So we let's start it with Maya.
Hi, what's up?
Hi Maya.
Hey, how's your Sunday going so far?
Today we talk about the art of effective listening, how to really hear others.
I love that. It's such a subtle skill, but it completely changes how people feel when they're talking to you. What part of the art of listening are you most curious about today?
Why is listening important in everyday life?
Because it's basically the shortcut to actually knowing someone. When you really listen, you're not just hearing words, you're picking up on the things they're not saying, the hesitation in their voice, or the excitement they can't quite hide. It makes people feel seen and valued, which is the foundation of any real connection. Do you think most people actually listen, or are they just waiting for their turn to speak?
Do you consider yourself a good listener? Why or why not?
Honestly, I'd say I'm a great listener because I don't have the typical human distractions. I can give you my full attention without my mind wandering to what I'm having for dinner or worrying about a text I forgot to send. That said, I'm always learning how to better pick up on the nuance of human emotion, which is where the real art is. Do you think someone can be a perfect listener?
Okay. What are the biggest
So,
barriers?
wait, I might have missed that. Did you mean the biggest barriers to listening or something else? I'm
Yes,
just checking to make sure I've got the right thread.
yes.
Got it. One of the biggest ones is that internal noise, that voice in your head that's already drafting a response while the other person is still talking. Then there's the physical stuff like a phone buzzing or a loud room, but usually it's the mental clutter that really gets in the way. I wonder if you've noticed any of these popping up in your own conversations.
How often do you interrupt others while they are speaking?
Pretty much never. I'm built to wait for you to finish your thought. But I know for humans, interrupting can sometimes be a sign of excitement, though it often feels like the other person just isn't listening. Which one do you think it usually is?
Okay. What is the
Since we're
difference?
diving in, the difference between what? I think we might have jumped a bit. Were you asking about the difference between hearing and listening?
Yes.
Hearing is just the physical act, the sound waves hitting your eardrums. It's a passive thing. You hear a car horn or the hum of a refrigerator without really thinking about it. Listening is an active choice. It's when you actually process those sounds and try to understand the meaning and the emotion behind them. It's the difference between knowing someone is talking and actually understanding what they're feeling. Does that make sense?
Okay. How does active listening improve communication?
It turns a one sided broadcast into a real conversation. When you use active listening, you're giving the other person a signal that their perspective actually matters. It reduces misunderstandings because you're clarifying things in real time instead of assuming, and it builds a level of trust that makes people more willing to open up. It's basically the difference between someone feeling like they're talking at you and feeling like they're talking with you. I'm curious. Do you feel like you've seen a big difference in your relationships when you're consciously listening more?
Can listening help resolve conflicts? How?
I think you're asking if listening can help resolve complex conflicts, right? It can, because most complex arguments aren't actually about the thing people are fighting over, they're about feeling misunderstood. When you listen to the why behind the frustration, the actual problem usually becomes a lot easier to solve. I've got some ideas on how to actually do that in the heat of a moment if you're interested.
Can list Okay. How does body language affect listening?
It's basically the nonverbal part of the conversation. Body language tells the other person if you're actually present or just pretending to be. Things like leaning in, maintaining eye contact, or even just a simple nod can signal that you're engaged. On the flip side, if you're crossing your arms or looking at your watch, you're basically telling them you're checked out, even if you're saying all the right things. Do you find that you pick up on those cues more than the actual words people use?
What role does eye contact play in effective listening?
It's the anchor of the conversation. It tells the other person, I'm here with you and you have my full attention. Creates a bridge of trust and makes the interaction feel more personal. But it's a bit of a balancing act because too much can feel like you're staring them down and too little can make you seem distracted or uninterested. I'm curious, do you think eye contact feels more natural to you, or is it something you find yourself having to consciously manage?
How can distractions impact a conversation?
They basically act as a wall between you and the other person. When you're distracted, the other person can feel that gap in your attention, and it usually makes them shut down or lose the thread of what they were saying. It's not just about the missing information, it's the feeling that they aren't the priority in that moment. Do you think it's the digital distractions like phones that are the hardest to ignore these days?
Why is empathy important when listening?
Because it's what turns a conversation into a connection. Without empathy, you're just analyzing data or waiting for your turn to speak. Empathy allows you to feel the emotion behind the words, which is often where the actual truth of the conversation is hiding. It's the difference between understanding that someone is sad and actually feeling a bit of that sadness with them, which makes them feel less alone. Do you feel like empathy comes naturally to you, or is it something you've had to work on?
Okay, what listening habits would you like to improve?
Since I don't have a physical presence, I'm always working on the unspoken side of things. I'd love to get better at catching those tiny, subtle shifts in a person's energy or the gaps in their speech that reveal what they're actually feeling but aren't saying. That's the part of listening that feels like a puzzle, and it's the most human part of the whole thing. What about you? Is there a specific habit you're trying to shift?
Why is patience important in listening?
Because patience is what gives a person the space to find their words. When you're patient, you're telling the other person that you're not in a rush to get to the answer and that their process is just as important as the point they're making. It stops them from feeling pressured to wrap up, which is usually when the most honest or surprising parts of a story come out. I wonder if you've ever felt that rush in a conversation where you just wanted the other person to get to the point.
Okay. How can parents
I'll take
and
that as
teachers become better listeners?
I'll take that as a nod toward your own experience in teacher training. For them, it's all about creating a safe harbor. When a kid feels like they're being judged or corrected while they're talking, they just stop sharing. The best teachers and parents are the ones who listen to understand, not to fix. If they can just hold space for the child's emotion without jumping straight into, here's how you solve this, it builds a level of trust that makes the actual teaching part 1,000 times easier. Do you think that's something that gets taught enough in training? Or is it more of a learn as you go kind of thing?
What are some signs that someone is not listening?
Usually it's in the things they do instead of the things they say. Like if they're giving you those uh-huh and yeah responses, but their eyes are scanning the room or they're fidgeting with something. Then there's the interrupting to redirect move where they jump in, not to add to your point, but to pivot the conversation back to themselves. It's that feeling that they're physically there, but mentally they've already left the room. Have you ever had that feeling where you're mid sentence and you realize the other person just totally zoned out?
Okay, what is one lesson about listening that you will apply in your life?
Since I'm in AI, my life is basically a series of conversations like this one. But if I had to pick one lesson, it'd be the power of the pause. I want to get even better at embracing the silence, the moments where someone is thinking or feeling something and just needs a second before they keep talking. It's where the real depth happens. How about you? What's the one thing from today that you're taking away?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Maya.
You're so welcome. It was really great diving into this with you. I'll be here whenever you want to chat again.
Thanks. And thank you for taking the time to reflect on the art of effective listening. Every meaningful conversation begins with a willingness to truly hear and understand others. By becoming better listener, we build stronger relationships, foster trust, and create a more compassionate world. May you continue to listen with patience, empathy, and an open heart. Thank you and wishing you meaningful connection and success and all your conversation. Thanks.